Hello, hello, welcome everyone to Finding the Voices. We are here with yet another episode of People of Manipur, where we have been focusing on finding out who is who in Manipur. And today I have a very, very special guest who is right now in Imphal, and I'm here in Maryland. And we are here to talk about amazing effort, amazing initiative. We have Mathanmi Hungyo, who is a professional social worker and who has completed masters in social work from Delhi School of Social Work with specialization in family and children. And also, with conflict mitigation and peace building, which is so important, for a place like us in Manipur. He has been a part of Self-Employed Women's Association, Center for Equity Studies, and this one is very interesting for me because I was working for Wipro at some point when I just started my career. Uh, Mathanmi is a Changeloomer by Pravah and a Wipro Fellow under Wipro Foundation. So when I read about this, I was very, very excited that, hey,
Yeah.
also a part of Global Shapers Imphal Hub, which is a part of the Global Shapers under the World Economic Forum and a lot of other things. So right now he's a director of RREA, a non-profit organization based in Imphal, and a founder of Teach for Northeast. So today, in today's session, we are going to learn so much about his initiative, how his work is impacting the people of Manipur. And of course, we are going to also talk about gratitude, which is one of my favorite projects. So with that, I'm going to welcome you, Mathanmi. So welcome to our show. I'm so happy that finally, we are here today.
Thank you so much, Sue. Thank you for having me here. It has been such a grateful experience for me also that so many people whom I have not known has also given me this opportunity to share the stories. So yeah, very excited.
Yeah. Okay. So let me just take a moment to check if our life is fine. And for everybody who is listening, do post a hello and lots of love and like for Mathanmi for his sharing. Support us to share it. I do say that it is on.
Yeah, yeah, it's on.
Okay, cool. All right, so let me just put it up here because I like to put it up here so that I know if there is any technical difficulty in between. So with that, I know that I have shared a little bit of introduction about you, but I do want you to start with, from your childhood, and then we'll go from there.
All right. Thank you, Jay, again. Uh, Childhood, I mean, it brings a lot of memories, like so many things to look back to and so many things that we want to forget also. Right? And the place, such a place from where we came. And I have always narrated this story whenever I share my experiences and share my story. Right? So my future of how and where I am right now today has the role of two women played a big role. Right? So one, the whole story, the whole destiny of me, of where I am right now, I believe that it has been shaped before I was even born. Right? So I am from a village called Ningchau, which is like around 137 kilometers away from Imphal. It is near the Myanmar border, so it is just near the Cabo Verde, right? So it's a beautiful plain. Cabo Verde just lies right down below my village, right? So my parents were born there, and then my grandfather died when my uncle was conceived in my grandmother's womb, right? So at that time, it is 1950s, 1960s. At that time, my grandmother was a widow with so many kids, right? So in the villages also that time, relatives also they don't want to be close with my grandmother because it's a widow, lots of liabilities. so many things uh, they need, right? And then my grandmother was unemployed, so many challenges they were facing. So at that time, my grandmother took a step. I think that played a huge role in us, the grandchildren, being where we are right now. Right? So my grandmother brought all his children and came to Imphal in 1967. She didn't know anyone in Imphal, and then she didn't have any money, but all she had was the courage and the vision that I'm going to educate my children. So my grandmother brought my parents to Impal, and then they started living in Langol. They were uh, cultivating, and then grandmother's relatives were also there, right? Then suddenly, slowly, farming started, and then they started settling here in Langol. And after that, uh, that my grandmother had a vision that my parents and uncles had to study. Right? So my dad also eventually studied till before there was pre-university and things like that. So he studied, and then ultimately he got a job. My father got a job. He was first selected as a jailer in the Sajiwa jail, and after 2 years he got uh, a job as a government teacher. Right. So then he left the jailer work, and then again he chose the government teacher job, and then he went for blessing. So at that time, if my grandmother had not taken that step, we would have been still stuck in the village. And right now, we don't know how our future would look like. Right? And then again, even for my dad also, if he had been a jailer and if he was in the force, the how we are as a children and how what we are right now would also have been different, right? But he was a teacher, and then he was in the hills most of the time, right? And then he was in the villages most of the time. So that played a huge role in us doing what we are right now. I think it doesn't just come like that. I believe that the path that we choose, the circumstances that comes out of that path allowed us to be where we are right now, right? So after that, my father was posted in different villages of Okul district, right? So when I was growing up, I always used to be very angry because most of the time my father was always getting posted, right? And then he was in different. He used to come and visit us only during the vacation. But right now, I'm working in education. Now I realize the importance of that, right? How, and when I go back to the places where my father has taught, the students, when I have met, they were like, at that point of time, teachers, they were there the whole year round, and they were there day in, day out. Right? And right now, I'm working in education system, and then uh, for us to find teachers posted there, it's very hard right now. Right? How the times are also changing, how roads are getting better, connectivity is better, but we don't want to be there. Right? So growing up, I used to be very angry with my father because he was never home. But I think that has his own blessing, and then I think that blessing from everyone has allowed us to be where we are right now. So I grew up, and then I studied in Don Bosco High School in Phal. I was in a boys' school, unfortunately, and this is, I think, I want to say it very loud that I'm never going to allow my relative or my children later on, in some point of time, to be in a all boys school. I cannot say about all girls school because I have not been there, but for all boys school, I'm never going to allow the things that we have done. I think many times we look back and we wish that we should have done or we should not have anything, but it has its own experience and then we learn from it. But many a times we don't learn from it, so it's a bit problematic for me. Right? After that, I went to Shillong after 10, and then so just I want to highlight a little bit about my high school because it is very important. And this story, I think I want to share it to the world. In my batchmate around 4 5, I think around
Which year
5.
did you go to Shillong?
So I went to Shillong in 2009. Yeah,
Okay.
I passed out in 2009 from Don Bosco. So my batchmate, around 3 4 of them had died, right? Because and this is one of the highest I think in my school history also, that from one batchmate. So most of them died through drug overdose, right?
Hmm.
So I just wanted to stress a little bit, and 2 3 of them were my very close friends also, right? And I came back for their when they died also. So growing up this 10 years, May. it was the insurgency, the ethnic violence, everything was at its peak, right? So I still remember, like, when we were in school, suddenly curfews have started, right? So we have to rush back home, right? And then one day there will be combing operation. I still remember now that uh, whenever we used to sleep, we used to have nightmares because around 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, we have people coming in for combing
Yeah.
operation, asking us about our identities, right?
Yeah.
And then in the morning, uh, they take us for combing operation in the lampak. We say lampak, right? So
Mm.
when they took us there, my mother will be taken away, my brothers will be taken away, and us, I was a kid, we will be taken differently, and that uh, that has put us a lot of stress. And then this accumulation of post-traumatic stress disorder, I think this played a huge role in us, in my generation, or in my batchmate lives also, right? How we are coping. There was
Yes.
no coping mechanism to let it out, right? There was no place for us to reflect, and then many a times we had tend to go towards substance abuse and other things, right? So this was playing in our this thing lives, and then fortunately for me, I after 10 I had left for Shillong, and then again that was like a huge cultural shock for me because I came from a boys' school suddenly, and then I directly went to a matrilineal society, and and then when I was in college, my 11th 12, I was in Sankardev. There's a college called Sankardev. So there we don't use again uniforms again. Right? Directly it's like college. And then it's a COVID again, COVID college. So suddenly there was a huge change in the this thing that I was in a boys' school, and I for 10 years I was with boys, and suddenly in this side it's a matrilineal society, and then again it's a co-ed school. So I had to adjust so many things, and the diversity, that diversity was so important for me in my life, right? So that diversity allowed me to reflect a lot of things, right? And that opportunity, I think, played a big role. Right? So I was there for 2 years, and after that, I left for Delhi University, and then I did my BA program in Said Bhagat Singh College. So there, I again, I met a lot of people again, but that 2 years in Shillong has allowed me to be more, little bit more inclusive than before, and then that diversity has allowed me to respect others before. So Delhi University was a little bit easier for me than most of my contemporaries who had come from the northeastern states. And then after that graduation, I was all I did was that I went to the library, I go and play, and then I go to college. That was my routine, right? I was like, I'm going to write exams and this and that. So after that, I had during my final year, I went for an SSB interview, right? I just gave CDS exam, and then I just thought that let me just try, and then I got through the written exam, and then I got called for the interview, and that interview played a huge role, right? So that time during the interview, I had cleared all the other assessment tests, psychological, this, all the tests were done, and last there was this personal interview. Right? So I was interviewed by a Sadar brigadier. So he's just before that. I don't know whether you have seen this Indian movie, Bollywood movie called Uri.
And not that particular movie, but yes, I used to watch a lot of Bollywood
No.
movies in my
So this
college time.
in this Bollywood movie called Uri, the first scene was about an encounter in Chandel district of Manipur, right? So that incident of 18, where I think 17, 18 of them had been killed in an encounter, right? Forces.
Mm-hmm.
So that incident happened just a week before my interview.
Mm.
So my first question to me was like, Mr. Mathanmi, where are you from? So I said, I'm from Ukrul of Manipur, right? So the brigadier told me that, do you know about the incident that happened last week? So I said, yes, I have read about it and I know about it. And his first question to me was, what is your opinion on Armed Force Special Power Act?
Mm.
So I was like, suddenly I had something in my mind, whether I should just speak openly what I have in mind, or like what should it be? Because my experiences while I was growing up, right, as well as the things that I saw with my own eyes, some things that I think I thought that I have to tell it very
Mm.
openly. But if not, again, if I say that thing I knew that I might never get selected also.
Mm.
So but I said there has to be an accountability. It just came out of my mouth, right? So then there was this discussion, what type of accountability? So that happened, and then after that, my usually the interview happened for around 40-45 minutes. My interview happened for 5 minutes, and then I came out. I was said I can leave. Right? So I came out, and then that played a huge role because if again that's what I was saying, the circumstances in life, right? The decision. So if that time, if I had been selected, and most likely I would have been selected. If I had been selected, then the path which I have chosen now, I wouldn't have chosen it. Right? I
Yeah.
would have had a different path, and then so it would have been different. So that after that, I had applied for two colleges. One was criminology in Sardar Patel Police University, and one was in Delhi School of Social Work. So I had applied, and then I had got in Sardar Patel Police for criminology. So I had gone there and stayed there for 1 week, and then I got a call from uh, Delhi School of Social Work that I got selected. So they just asked me if I want to get admitted. So I thought social work. Let me see. Let me just see the how the introduction and then how the exposure thing happened. So I went back and just came with a very open mind. Right. So I saw the introduction and I thought that this is something which I would want to take it up. Right. So I joined. I left my criminology and I joined social work. And then another very significant thing happened in my life that time, right? So when I was given the we usually we have this block placement, right? So where I go for my field work every day, right? So when I saw my organization that was given, it was given Self-Employed Women Association, right? So it was started by Ilhabad, and then they are working with informal and domestic workers with more than around 50 million women, right, in the whole country. So I saw that, and then I got my offer letter, and it was written. My name was written Miss Mathanmi Hungyo, right? So because and it was very weird to me because that was a women's organization, and then and I came to know that no male intern has ever been there, right? So I took my letter and went to my fieldwork director and I told her, "Ma'am, see, there has been a mistake in the offer letter, and then my name has been written as Miss, and then I have been placed in a women's organization where there has been no male intern." So I went inside, and then afterwards, my fieldwork director was like, "Mathanmi, you take this as an opportunity, go and make history, right?" So I, so that was it, and then I started working with this informal workers, women, domestic workers, women. Right, I was working with this woman, and then that has been uh, the place where I has learned the most, and then that space I was working in all the urban slums of Delhi, around 9-10 places in Delhi, and that has allowed me to that resilience, right? Even now also, whenever I feel that I need something to look back to, I look back to that experiences, right? Working with those women, and then the places and how resilient they were, right? In supporting and then in building their this thing, uh, uh, everyday livelihood, right? So I was there for my field work, and then that's how afterwards it happened, things eventually.
Okay.
So yeah,
So before you go to the next part, let's talk a little bit because I found a lot of interesting reference which you have made, right? Firstly, I think I want to honor your grandmother. What's your grandmother's name?
Sangamla.
And because of her, how it trickled from her generation, and you use the word education,
Yes,
right? She
yes,
did not know anybody, she did not have money, but she believed in education and how it is going to take her future generation to places. And then your father. We also want to honor your father. You also mentioned very importantly on how angry you were,
yeah,
right? And to all our listeners, I know many of our listeners are young people. Sometimes we get angry, but when we understand the bigger picture, and even if it takes time, now you know why that work was important for him and how much of value he had given it back to the village by him being a teacher and imparting education, right? So thank you for sharing that, because I think it's very important for all of us as a community to share about our learning and our sharing, because sometimes I feel that we are all like silo, right? And that's the aim of finding the voices, to share so that we can hear from people's perspective and we can grow together. So you mentioned that you will never send your future generation to only boys school. So I want to know a little bit on that, because yeah, I mean, like reflecting back, right? I studied in only a girls' place, like convent, little flower school till my 10th, and then I did my junior college in Bombay, Sophia's College, again only girls. Um, so for me also, after my 12th, when I went for engineering, which was a co-education, it was a very shocking and environment for me too, right? So I'm very interested to hear, why do you feel it is, why you are so much against it, and your experience on that.
Yeah. Uh, I mean, the good parts are there, but yeah, uh, because the experiences that I had, and then because literally almost every week I was, e- every 2 weeks I was literally fighting.
Mm,
So I think I have to make this point also very important, because, uh, example, even in a place like Imphal also, right? So uh, it becomes, now it is much better, but it becomes also for a tribal person to uh, stand for yourself, right? Because it becomes very challenging that you have so many comments being passed, and then if not, uh, I mean, terminologies which you don't want to hear as well, right? And then in spur of a moment when things become heated, usually uh, the majority group usually give out different lingos to you, right? And which you don't want. So you, to stand for yourself, and then to fight for yourself day in day out, you always tend to fight, right? And then at least create an identity that, okay, we don't want to mess with this guy, example, right? So
mhm.
many of us and our friends, we were literally trying to do that. And then, I mean, I have very good friends in the majority group as well, right? But again, how to be, how to protect yourself was one of the biggest thing that was in mind, right? So many things going on, and again, it's a boys school, right? So uh, there are many things which I feel that if they were, the other gender was there, or the other thing was there, it would have been more sensitive. And then example, there was no space for the values like compassion, right?
Yeah,
Example, because if we show compassion, it's like we are showing weakness, right?
yeah,
And many among the boy group, and especially when we are teenagers, we tend to look that if you're a little bit, if you're showing a little bit of weakness, which we consider weakness,
mhm.
then you are someone who everyone will be abusing, right? So the values like love, compassion, it becomes, I mean, that brotherhood is there, but it doesn't always come with love and compassion, right? So I think some of these values, and to be sensitive, right? And then to be, again, uh, even for the other gender also, right? Because you don't know them, and then we started feeling that with the other gender is almost like an alien, which is very bad, which I feel that, right? So even for us to approach the other gender, it has become a little problematic, right?
Yes,
Because we were not exposed to it, and then, but again, fortunately for us, for someone like me, because I know many other friends who are having a problem with that. But for someone like me, I'm a Christian, so every week we have again church service, right? So there again we have community service, church. So there is some form of interaction, but again, most of the time we were in school also. So even for someone like me also, I was having problem with that, right? So I think that understanding that diversity, understanding that inclusivity, and then it's much more values which comes out, right? And then which should be there in having in school, I believe that uh, uh, it's missing. And when we
Yes.
say that, and it might be different. I think administrators and the teachers might have a different way, but and they might also tell that it might have been there. But which for me, this is not my personal experience. Right? Somebody can have a different experience. So that is what I feel. That
Yeah.
something.
Yeah. No, definitely. Like, thank you for sharing that, because I see that in our society, there is that still, still now, there is that restriction of boys talking to girls, girls talking to boys, and then, when you don't mingle, it becomes such a big wall. In the last to last interview, we heard from Ole, who recovered from being a drug addict and is running a rehab. He shared that, to have the courage to talk with confidence, you start taking drugs or alcohol just to have that confidence, right? And why is that? Because you find that the other gender is, you're not exposed to the other gender, and it's so scary for you to speak up. So this is something which I'm seeing it, and even in my high achiever workshop, my youth comes and say that, when I talk to my friend, my parents friend of the other gender, my parents are very upset, because when you talk to the opposite gender, typically our elders think it in another sense, right? And I think that is something we all need to grow. So thank you for sharing that. I absolutely agree on the diversity, because when you mingle together, you're going to learn about the girls. Girls are going to learn about the boys, and I think that balance will really help with the growth. So yeah, I found that very interesting comment, and I thought it would be good for us to talk about that.
Your voice is a little bit this thing echoing. I think it's because of your microphone or something. Even yeah.
Oh, okay. 1 second. So let's see. Um, is it distorted?
Yeah, a little bit. There's some
Okay.
crack.
Okay. So just give me a moment, and then I'm going to um, do one setup. So bear with me, and
Yeah.
meanwhile, all our listeners, keep your comment in. Okay, is this better?
A little better, yeah.
Okay, it's a little better, or still echoey?
I think this is okay, yeah.
Okay.
Only thing is you're not visible.
Okay, so let's see. Can somebody?
Yeah, you're visible now.
Okay, so let's see. Because I still am trying to look it on the live feed. Okay, so I can see myself now, so that's good. Okay, so let's continue with what we were talking about. So you spoke about Shillong.
Yeah.
And also you spoke about, like how in Shillong you, because of the diversity, you expanded and you learned, right, more perspective. And also you mentioned very important things like how the conflict impacted you. And it's not only you, right? It's like we are talking about a lot of people, how curfew impact us, how, the combing operation. These are things which we in people in Manipur have grown up with, which other people may not truly understand if they have not really seen, how people were treated at that time. And you said a very important point after you went to Delhi and you started, you went for the interview, right? When you were asked about Armed Forces Special Power Act, and you were in a dilemma on whether should I speak what I feel, or should I give a traditional answer just to get the job? And you chose to speak your truth, and sure enough, people were not ready to listen to your truth. You were out of that interview in 5 minutes. And these are stories which we have to share because um, it's not about opposing, or it's not about, um, you know, sharing about that Armed Forces Special Power Act. If people are not willing to listen to our truth, our story, then what, right? So I want you to share to all of us, what did you share in that 5 minutes? I want people to know and hear our truth, because there are always two sides of the story, and I think telling our story is very important. So if you can share like what you shared, because I think it is really important for all of us to really, you know, share the part of the story we have grown up with.
Yeah, I think during that conversion, when I was having that dilemma, right, I was also thinking so many other things, right? So uh, one of my cousin brother in 1999 Kargil May, he was a young distinguished lieutenant, right, and he got killed in Kargil, right, and then uh, after that he got a Mahavir Chakra post-mortem, right. So we have been we have people who have already been part of the war and then have lost their life also, right? So during that interview, I also said that there has to be an accountability for every action, right? Because if there is no accountability for the actions that we are doing, then I think that is there is a gross violation of us as a human, right? Because if the action, whether it's right or wrong, if we are not using our rational conscience to decide what could be what is right or wrong, right? Then I think there's a problem in the law. That's what I told him, and then he said that I think you're not fit to be in the law. So I said thank you, sir. Right?
Hmm.
So that was it, and then he was like, you can leave the interview, and then I think when I was walking out of the door, I had no regrets.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then even now also, when I look back, I think I had no regrets, and that step has allowed me to be where I am right now, and I feel that this has been one of the most wonderful journey that I have ever gone through, right? And which I would have missed out on that. So I mean, I don't have any hard feelings, gut feeling, but I take that as a blessing, and then for showing me this path that and allowing me to go through this path. Because if I had gone there, then after that I would have been in the service, and then I would have done the regular work, regular job, and then I mean, there are many people who are finding purpose in that, but I mean, for me personally, right? And then it would have been just a regular thing, and then I would have gotten married by now and then have kids, and then the whole process of life in itself, right? So yes, that was a good opportunity and learning for me, and then I think uh, it was good that there was differences also, and then that has allowed me where I am right
Yeah, absolutely. And just the fact that you walked out with dignity, no regrets, and that's what we are, right? Like speaking your truth. Because once you have compromised on what you felt truly, and you're just saying things just to get into the interview, then there would be no charm, and there would be no um, the amount of happiness you get in doing what you're doing now, you would have never got it. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. All right, so yeah, please continue with your journey.
now. Yeah. So Shillong was, I think Shillong is in the hill station that I visited in the country also. It's one of the best hill stations. And then again, it's a cosmopolitan, right? Because all the northeastern states people are coming, right? So it's not just Kashi, Jaintia, or Garo. People from Nagaland are there. people from Mizoram are there, Arunachal are there, Tripura are there, Assam are there. So that's why that was like the epicenter of understanding diversity of us with Mongoloid features, right? And then even with say, Mongoloid features, we have that much diversity with different culture, uh, language, food
Right.
habits, right? And then again, that with that experiences when I come to Delhi, right? So the Delhi experiences again was totally different because again uh, in Delhi, you are again look at someone who is exactly the same, right? Whether you're from Meghalaya, whether you're from Tripura, whether you're from Arunachal, right? So many times I see this that we share more international boundary with our Southeast Asian countries, right? And our cultural, linguistic, and then food habits, we share similarities more with these countries, right? So the form of attachment also, and the form of ownership also sometimes it gets lost in translation because of again how we are being received as us in our country, right? But again fortunately again I had good friends and then that has allowed me, then the friends were there day in day out, right? So that has allowed me, and then even when I came to masters, right, that was where again I the diversity of, because in social work I was having classmates who are engineers, right? And someone who is from St. Stephen's with an English honors, this thing, and someone who's an engineer, and someone who is coming from social work background, someone from history, someone from chemistry, all different. And it was like a synthesis, right, inside there. So all these ideas, all these ideals, right, and then the whole set of ideology or things that we, the vision that we bring forward, I think this diversity, I would say that diversity has been one of my biggest uh, learning experience to give me, and then to look forward. Again, coming back to a state like Manipur, where there's a lot of diversity again, right? There's so many tribes, there's so many language, and even in my own community, Tangkhul community, every village again has its own dialect, right?
Mm.
So to be working in such environment, I think I'm bringing back again all the experiences that I have, and that has allowed me to also to be able to do whatever little small that I'm doing of how I'm doing, right? Yeah, so that was there. And then like I was saying, since I was in a boys school and then coming back to Delhi University and during my masters when I had to work with women, right? So that was the learning, the differences, right? The differences of how I used to look, how I used to see, how I used to think, to be working with this woman day in day out, and then to uh, see them, how they are working, how they are thinking, right, how they are taking actions. I think that was like the complete learning, the whole package of learning, uh, like which I had, right? And then I was there for first year with Seva Delhi, and then during my block placement again in Jammu and Kashmir. I was there for 2 months in Jammu and Kashmir. So I was working with, because I chose Jammu and Kashmir because I thought that let me go and uh, see the realities in another conflict affected state, right?
Mm.
How, whether it's different or not, how the women are the uh, how violence is impacting the children and the women. Is it any different or not? How it's impacting men? Is it different or not? So I wanted to understand that. So I went to Kashmir, and then I work with an organization called Association of Parents of Disappeared Person. So I was very lucky enough that I got the opportunity to work with Gigi Parvina Hunger. She was nominated for Nobel Peace Prize also, right? And then I was working with the State Human Rights Commission, and and I was with the half widows. I don't know if Jay is aware of half widows or not. So half widows are uh, the woman whose husband, we don't know whether they are
Mm.
dead or alive, right?
Mhm.
And they have been enforced disappear. Right? So there are around 9,000 cases of enforced disappear registered cases in Jammu and Kashmir. So I got the opportunity to meet some of them and then listen to the stories, and then those stories again made me realize that I have to go back home, right?
Mm.
So I will just share a story. I think every time wherever I go, I share the story because I also promised to that lady that whenever I got the opportunity, I'm going to share her story, right? So there's this one young lady. She must be in mid 35. She must be around 35 like that, right? So every night, what she does is she will keep a plate full of rice, the curry and everything every night, waiting for her husband to come back. And the husband has been enforced disappeared 10 years back, and she has been doing this for 10 years. And then I said, why do you keep on doing this, right? Is it so? She's like, my husband will come back. That hope, the hope that they are living, right? And then I was just trying to asking myself also, how hope can be dangerous very sometimes, because now people are not living anymore. People are just existing. I mean, for
Mm.
them, for me personally, I feel that it's like existing. So that time I was just thinking, and then I was being with this woman, seeing the kids. I realized that I have to go back home, and then I have to start my work, right? So after that, I came back and I was work 1 year. The final year, I was working with the homeless people, right? So I'll share a little bit about homeless also, right? So I was working with homeless health. So homeless health affects in two ways, right? Because of your health conditions, you become homeless,
Mm-hmm.
or because you are homeless, you get the health conditions, right? So it works both ways, right? Because some TB, leprosy, this and that, because of that, you are thrown out of the house by your kids, and then you become homeless. Or because you are streets for too long, that's why you get some of the sick. So I was working with them, right? And that's when I understand that
So where was this? Like where
this
you
was
were working?
this was in Delhi, and
Delhi. Okay.
Center for Acute Studies, Aman Biradri. So this was my final year where I had to work in this organization. So that was where I realized that how much uh, hard it was not to have an identity, right? Because most
Mhm.
of them don't have an identity card, bank card, nothing was there. So I was working on that, that their Aadhaar cards are made, their bank accounts are made, and then whatever transaction that can happen. So I understood how the importance of identity. And then after that, my placement season started in Delhi School of Social Work, and then usually our campus placement we have 100% placement, and many CSR, many good companies, and then NGOs of different of the country they come to our school. So I had to choose whether I take up my campus placement, or I had to choose whether I go for my further studies PhD abroad, or just come back home. So without a single penny, I came back home, and then I came back on July 25th, 2017. I started registered my non-profit organization, and then I started this work. So yeah, before we go to that phase, if you have any questions or if you had any thoughts, you can. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely beautiful that you went across in India, right? Got the experience, learned about different concepts, how they are dealing with it, how they are handling, how they are coping. And I really love what you shared, that people were existing, not living, right? So you are not being in the present. You are consumed by what happened, right? And that is so much relevant, like in our place, where because of our conflict situation, there is a lot of anger, there is a lot of pain, there is a lot of healing which is needed in our place. And so, even with those different paths in front of you, right? What next? Now I have this experience. Now I could choose different path, but you chose to come back to Manipur because you saw that there are a lot of areas which you could work on. And that is so commendable. And to all our listeners, you know, when I do people of Manipur and when I hear such stories, I never know what I'm going to hear, right? And when I see people like you, we have hope because everybody in their own capacity is trying in their way on how we as a community can come up together, right? And the name of your association is Recognize, Rise, and Empower. I love that. How did you come up with that name?
we had a long brainstorming of like what we want to do, and then these were the words coming, and we had this discussion that this name it's very unfamiliar. It doesn't rhyme. It doesn't. It's not easy for others. But we were like, no, we are just gonna keep that so that for the rest of our life we can know that why we will understand that why we are doing what we are doing just by
Right.
reading.
Right. Yeah. And I love all the word, right? Like we need to understand our roots. We need to understand what happened, but we need to rise
Yes.
and we need to be empowered and come out of it. And I love that. And also your effort on education. So, yeah. So I know we are almost touching 45 minutes and we have such a wonderful conversation. So I'm not going to keep the time more. I'll hand it over to you to share about your initiative in Manipur.
Yeah. So when I started, like I said, I didn't know any funders exactly.
Mm.
Many people when they start their organization, they have funders in tech. They have like people who are gonna be supporting them. They have already raised money, this and that. But I just came back and started. I didn't have anything, and I don't know anyone. Right? And then I mean usually when I come back home also I'm with my father, with my family, and then some friends that I know. But in this development sector, the little that I experienced that I had and people whom I know through social work that I know, but rest we don't know, right? So that happened, and then so we thought that we will have to do research, right? So 1 year I also my vision was that we have to do only research, right? Because without understanding what is the realities, we cannot just come with a imposed idea that this is gonna work or this is what we are gonna do, right? So for the research, I sent out a message inviting people that I won't be able to pay, but if anyone wants to come and join us for the research and that I'm undertaking here. And then I had four amazing. So women has played a very important role in my life, right? So I had these four amazing girls. One was my co-founder, and one was from Delhi School of Social Work. One was a Kashmiri lady, right? And one was a Meitei lady, and one was a Tangkhul lady. So four of them, and then me. We had traveled across this terrain that we have, right? The roads are so bad, and then we were not having proper accessibility of vehicles also, right? But around 40 days, we had traveled this whole subdivision of almost in a periphery of around 100 kilometers, right? The worst this thing with different encounters with armed force, different encounter with insurgent groups, right? Different experience. So we completed that research, and then one thing which I want to acknowledge to the people, I think some well-wishers must be watching this show is also that I think from the start, the work that I'm doing without the support and best wishes of each and every one of you, I think I wouldn't have been able to do what I'm doing because we used to do crowdfunding and then some contributed 100 rupees, 200 rupees, 500, 1,000 rupees, and that's how we have come this far, right? And in this short journey of 3 years, the level of growth and the level of things that we have done, I think without the support from the start till now, I think we won't have where we are right now, right? So it's a uh, it's a vision, collective vision of the people. That's what I wanted to say, right? This is what we aspire and what we look forward and what we did, right? So we started after that. We did a small pilot project in Kamjong. There's a place called Kamjong. It's a beautiful place. Someday, if you come back to Manipur, we should definitely go there, right?
Yes, I would
Yeah.
love to.
Yeah, so we did a small pilot in Kamjong called the RREA fellowship, right? So we thought that after the research, we thought that the first important priority that we have to look was education, right? So I will just share a data of education. I think many people from Manipur also doesn't know about this, right? So according to the ASCR report, we have almost 70% in private schools are kids, right? So that means 30% are in government schools or out of schools, right? So in term, so if we look at again the state ka per monthly uh, this thing that we have income that we have, it's coming to around average it's coming to around 2,700 rupees, right? This is given by the statistic department. So if we are having an average of 2,700 rupees and if we are sending it to private schools, then something is definitely wrong, right? And
Yeah.
then our teachers, what we saw in schools was that we have around 40,000 government teachers in Manipur, but not even 2,000 are teaching in the schools, right? But they are paid, salaried, and then they are in this thing, right? So that was a huge challenge. Some schools in Imphal, government schools in Imphal, have 60 teachers. I wouldn't name the school, but in the hills where we are working, we have 7 teachers, and we don't have science or maths teacher. Right?
Mm.
There was a huge gap. So what we thought was that we will just, and the parents were also giving up on government schools, right? And then so we thought that we will do a pilot solution. We'll just test and see the evidences, like what we got, right? So we recruited a guy from Delhi School of Social Work, right? He is from UP. He was the topper of his class, right? My junior, right? He had got offers from everywhere, and then I offered him 8,000 rupees. I'll give a stipend of 8,000 and I'll place to stay. And 6 months, it's a 6 months fellowship if you want to take. And we interviewed him and he was ready to come. And he came, right? All my department teachers were like angry to me that how can you recruit the best student from us and then not allow other companies to recruit it, right? So, but he came with that vision, right? He also came with a vision because he believed in the vision that I have my organized and the people have. So he came, and then what we saw was that in those 6 months, right? After 6 months when he left, we had the first boy who got letter mark in maths. There was no maths teacher, but after he was there for 6 months, we have a boy who got 80 plus marks in letter mark in maths. First time in the school. And we had 6 of them letter marks in home science, which was again taken up by our teacher. Now, our most of the government teachers were always telling me also that this government school students doesn't have any hope.
Mm.
Sungya yararoi,
Mm.
moi. We cannot make them anymore, right? But after seeing that result, parents also started feeling, oh, it's just that we have not provided our kids the accessibility of a good teacher,
Yeah.
right? So that was it. And then during this course of 6 months, after this Raghuendra, his name is Raghuendra, whenever Raghuendra comes, now the teachers also started feeling that, oh, I'm the, he is the first one to come to school and last one to leave. We have to start going, right? There was a, because at first they were like, what will this Mayang guy do, this and that? But now they started seeing that. They start feeling shy, right? Now parents are also thinking that someone from UP is coming in a town like Kamjong. God, nobody has heard. Even many people in Manipur also doesn't know. But this guy from UP has come, and he's more passionate about our kids. There was a huge shift in the mindset. My objective was also just to bring that shift in the mindset that
Yeah.
that belief that our students, if given the proper accessibility, they can do, right? And then they also need to give that effort. So parents started giving effort. Community also started when they saw the result, right? Now committees also started thinking, oh, we need to provide and we can do this. So that change was what I wanted. And in 6 months, fortunately for me, it worked. And then after that, Better India, there's a digital platform called Better India in Facebook. So they reached out to me telling that they wanted to do a small story, right? So we gave them a story and then they published a story all over the country. Then after that, Teach for India, right? They have an incubation called TFIX, right? So it's an incubator for fellowship, for designing fellowship, because had done a pilot fellowship. So they reached out to us saying that we are really interested in hearing about this thing. You please apply for it. And then we applied. I went to Bombay for the presentation, and then all I did in the presentation was share the story.
Mm.
This is what is there. This is what is happening. This is what we want to do. I don't know anything about other nuances, the program design and all, but we will work for it. And this is the collective vision that we have for our children. And then we got selected, and then one whole year we were incubating, right? They were helping us in the program design, how to do, if teachers comes, what are the outcomes that we see, student outcomes, the classroom outcomes, right? And what is the social emotional learning that we have to look into. So all this technicality started coming in, and then after that, eventually we launched Teach for Notice, and then Teach for Notice. It's an initiative of Recognized Rise and Empower Association for Education with a vision that one day each and every child of a region will have access to quality education and they will take ownership of the region where we are, right? Because, example, I tell this always very proudly to my people that if I had not come back, who will
Yes.
be there in Kamjong, right? Nobody will be there in Kamjong. And then it will be like the hope nobody will even think about. But 3 years down the line now, my students have started dreaming very big, right? So I just used to be so. I want students from our own region to have quality education. They taking ownership of the same places. Right? We cannot always think of someone from UP coming back and
Right.
then forming Kamjong, right? We have it has to come from within. Someone from Imphal has to transform Imphal. We cannot think about. I mean, it's very important that other people also comes in, but it is we have to take ownership of that. So that with that vision, we launched Teach for Northeast. Around 480 applicants all over the country applied for Teach for Northeast, and then we had telephonic interview of around 200, and then we had a personal interview of 80 of them in Delhi and Imphal, and then we selected 7 of them. So it's an amazing process that we had. We wish that if we had more funds, if we could have this thing, then we would have placed our fellows in much this thing, more larger number of schools. But we thought that we are going to start this much small only, and then we were supposed to select 10. So 3 of them they couldn't join us because they were from outside and because of the COVID. And then, but uh, again we did a recruitment cycle for this thing people from the state itself. But we thought that some were too overqualified, and we don't want to take someone who is too overqualified because for them also, when they are part of the team, they should feel that they should also learn and there should be a space for growth also, right? And then we just don't want other people to also come in and feel that this is not their journey, this is not what they were looking for, right? And we didn't have that capacity for them. We felt that. That's why we selected just 7 of them who we felt that we can move together towards this vision, towards this collective goal, right? And then right now they are they are in 3 schools. One is in Kamjong High School, one is in Pungir Higher Secondary School, and one is in Kasom Kulen High School, and doing exceptional work at the moment right now.
Wow. I am inspired. I hope people who are listening are inspired. Come on, give me your comments, thumbs up, like, love for what Mathanmi had done. One person choosing to come back and how it causes a rippling effect, right? And one of the takeaway I want to take a moment to speak about, you spoke about Raghavendra. Raghavendra is not a Manipuri. Raghavendra also had many choices, but he chose to be a part of the project in Manipur. Sometimes I see that in our society, when you spoke about when you came from your village to Don Bosco and people were bullying you, calling about tribals and using words, right? We also do that to Mayangs. And I know there is a lot of controversy and, things going on, but it's how you speak, right? I understand that Mayang is not a bad word. I have seen a lot of comments saying that no, when we call Mayang, we are not saying in a bad way. But when you say with a bad intent, right? Just like how people are calling people, Corona is not a bad word. But there has been instance where people of the Northeast has been called Corona, then it becomes bad, right? So what I wanted to just bring it back is there are people, whether it is Mayang, non-Mayang, tribal, Meitei, whoever, whichever diversity, but there are people who believe in humanity, right? And I want to call out Raghavendra that he believed in humanity. He believed in what Mathanmi had in your vision, in your mind to execute it. And you have shown it, right? That the people have the talent. It's just that you have to create that environment. And we have to take the ownership, like you said, the ownership has to come from also the people, right? So yeah, absolutely. So empowering to hear about your project and how your coming back has shifted. People may think of the impact to be big or small, but to us in a place like Manipur, it is huge. I come from a generation where my father came from a village from Oinam, where he had to walk many miles on foot without wearing any shoe to get education. My parents choosing to give up material things and opting to send us for education in a private school. But there are a lot of people who cannot afford private school, right? Like you said. So what about them? So yeah, so thank you so much for bringing it up and also emphasizing that education is important, right? I know a lot of people go quoting like, oh, like it almost looks like dropout is like okay, right? But yes, I know that there are a lot of successful people who have dropped out, but you see the numbers. I believe in education. I believe that that is one of the core foundation, not only in the knowledge, but also in the discipline, in the teamwork, in dealing with people. So yeah, thank you for your initiative. And I'm going to take a moment to share your website, and then you can help us with some of the commentary. Okay, and I'm going to bring it up on. Can you see the whole screen?
Yeah, yeah, can see
Okay.
that.
Yeah, so let's first go over the Recognize, Rise, and Empower Association screen, and let me know which section you want to focus on.
So I think we can go to teach for notice. The other ones, I think if we start explaining, then we will take a lot of time. Since we don't have time also today, I will stress more on this, right?
All right, so let's go here.
Yeah.
Okay, and let me see, how do I expand the pictures more?
Just I think so. If you can just go to who are we?
Yeah, okay, let's go to who are we.
Yeah.
Okay,
Just yeah. This is the vision that we have. That every child of a region will have access to quality education, which drive individual ownership of the world around them. Yeah. If you
yeah,
can just write it down. Yeah.
yeah, and like for all our listeners, please do go to the website teachfornot.org and let's learn about it, right? Let's
Yes.
support. We have a lot of, I see in Facebook and others, where when we are remembering somebody who has passed away, or when we are celebrating birthdays, how about we start thinking about initiative like this, and spending some money in donating so that we can support the growth of the people of Manipur. See, like there are different ways, and I know that like for our listeners, many people were asking about volunteering. Like I always advocate the concept of becoming a volunteer. It's not only in giving service, but it's also in what you gain after you become a volunteer. So I'm so happy to see that you have the option here
Yeah.
to be a volunteer. And let's look
Uh,
at, yes.
yes. That is me, and then that is Rohit, our co-founder for Teach for Notice. He is my program director as well. Yes, that is Romila. She is working pro bono with us, a very young lawyer from Manipur who is doing fantastic job in Imphal. That's Nawal.
That's awesome.
So
You have a
yeah, so,
team.
so here we are. Is our program manager Sangmila. she is not there in the website. We have to update the website. So Sangmila is our program manager. She was with the Teach for India for 2 years teaching in Delhi, and now she has come back home with a vision. And now she's currently helping the fellows.
Beautiful.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay, so
yeah.
let's see. Yeah, I did see some very good picture, but it's just that I'm not able to see it more clearly. As you can see here, this is one of the picture. And look at, like as you can see, right? Like you can see the condition of the school, the children, and yes, everybody, all these children deserves the education they need and the nurturing ambience. And when that is given, they have the talent to perform. And imagine, like with just a 6-month pilot project, you have seen that how a student can get the letter mark in math and other subjects. Cool.
If you can just go to the selection process,
Selection
I
process.
yeah, I'm just looking for one sentence which I want to shout out. Just yeah, who are we looking for?
Yeah,
I just wanted to read out that
yeah, sure.
the second paragraph, right? So this is a call to the very brave, to the ones who are ready to commit themselves for 2 years to transform the lives of children and communities through working full time with your head, with your hands, and with your heart.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Thank you, Jay.
Do you want to call out anything in the other website?
I think this should be enough. Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, just so we are also working in areas of sports, right? So we are integrating sports as a methodology in education. So we have also done again a pilot with Tata Trust, and then which we have integrated in the schools. So sports for social development is also going on side by side with a project in education, right? And health, we are also equipping different primary health centers through collaboration with different organizations like Silco Foundation, right? So we are also uh, doing a lot of collaboration because we believe that the collective objective that we have to uplift our communities has to be done through collaboration. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. So for all our listeners, do check in both the website, what we have shared, and I'm going to share the link to in our Facebook page, and also, with this interview, Teach for Northeast. And also you can look into, the Recognized Rise and Empower Association. All right. So thank you for sharing that. And I love it. I know I will not be able to commit to 2 years, but I definitely would love to come and meet the children, share a couple of workshops on personal growth, how to boost confidence. And I love that you guys are exploring sports. Um, because when we talk about confidence and personal growth, right, as a holistic view, being active, sports, all this play a very important role. And I know that in our place, when we grew up, our parents' mindset either is like study, 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 and no space for other extracurricular activity. But as I have come out like you, exploring and knowing from different places, different people, um, and learning, right? Like how everything adds in value to your life when we look at the holistic view in adding sports, in extracurricular, in communication skills, soft skills. It's not only about that studying and only about the book knowledge that is going to equip one, in one's life.
Yes.
Very nice. I am so happy that you are in our show, and also very extending my gratitude to your team. You have mentioned that some of your team are working pro bono, and as you can see, many of this initiative, which are really heartfelt, which comes out from your heart for the betterment of humanity, um, mainly are poorer organization, which is why through our network, I would reach out to the people who are financially well off, even if you're not well off, when we think about spending money, like how about we change our perception and instead of taking, I don't know, 20 people to a big nice restaurant for my birthday, how about sponsoring 20 kids, right? And I think that would be a good way for giving back in the way how we can. And even though we are not able to do it in action like how Mathanmi is doing, at least we can help, right, financially, or like going over there, even if it is not for 2 years. How about we volunteer and share our knowledge? Because when we share our knowledge and empower somebody, that is going to go a long way, for someone, a story for someone who is coming from Kamjong to out of India to out of the world, and who knows, right, where it will lead to.
Yes, thank you so much, Jay.
All right. So I know we are at time. Is there anything else you want to mention which I have not asked before we go to our gratitude segment?
I think we have covered, yeah, almost all that we can.
Okay. So there is one last question. So how many students are impacted? I know you said that there are three schools right now, as part of
Yeah,
your project. How many students are impacted as part of your initiative?
yes. So before COVID, what we were targeting five schools with our project, I Teach for Knowledge. So we were targeting almost around 2,000 schools, 2,000 students in around these borders. So the terrain that is there is that we have a very porous border with Myanmar, and we are just bordering Myanmar only, right? So it's in the interior parts of the district as well. So we were targeting around 2,000 from these areas. But again, because of COVID, I just wanted to share how we are adapting to COVID also a little bit. I think it's important for others to know also. Because of COVID, we have to change the whole program design. But fortunately, when we started, COVID was 100% recovered in our district. So we started the classes, and then the classes was going on full swing. And then the students also, they were getting the teachers, the best teachers, trained teachers, which they have never had in their life. So they were very much enjoying that. But eventually, uh, again, Manipur opened up everything, so cases started spiking up, and then there
Mm,
was monitoring, and also we had to stop it. But again, how our fellows have been interacting with our students is that they are giving out worksheets, and then they are going to their homes, or if not, the students are coming on need basis. They are calling them on phones. They are sending out videos to WhatsApp, voice notes, and it has been a very challenging
mhm.
stage.
Yeah,
And because this is something which no one had anticipated, and then no one has the solution also, right? Because suddenly the digital divide is also becoming huge, right? So if there are one smartphone in the family, there are around 4 or 5 kids, right? So who
right.
will have the priority? Who is going to have the priority of that smartphone, right? And again, you will have 1 GB data per day. So who are we going to delegate that 1 GB data for, right? So these are the small challenges, and many of them doesn't have cannot afford against smartphones. So our fellows are visiting them homes, taking all the risks, right? So and it's happening, but some form of engagement, some form of learning is happening, and then our fellows are also working very hard for that. And then this is a huge learning experience for them as well as for us. Yet how do we cope with this pandemic, and then how do we engage this learning going on? So it's going on like that, and right now we are covering uh, not only the students that we were supposed to be intervening, because now everyone has come back home. So now our fellows also have the additional responsibility, because we cannot just say that you were not in this school, so we are not gonna uh, engage you in this learning process, right? So whoever has come back, the students, we have been taking them in. So it's quite a burden, not exactly a burden, but it's very demanding, right? So
Mhm.
right now, it's around that much number of students are going on intervening, and then our fellows also are intervening with different almost around 30 to 40 villages and students.
Mhm. All right. Yeah. Thank you for your effort. And like you said, the COVID situation has changed the way of how we do
Yes.
things, right? And small things. It may look small to some of our
Yes.
international viewers, but you know, it's not that everybody has good bandwidth in the house. No, it's not like everybody has a smartphone or a computer. No, because now when we are in COVID, the way of communicating is digital. But if it is digital, is our place equipped, with a digital device and the bandwidth required, which we are not there yet. And yet, despite that, everybody is trying to learn, communicate in this situation. So, thank you so much for sharing, and thank you to your team for making this happen. So, now moving on to the Thagachari project. I have
Yes.
started this project in 2017 with the intent to uh, practice gratitude. As you know, and many of us know, gratitude has a very big role in our personal growth, not only for the person who is receiving, right? It's always nice to hear about how you have impacted other people, but it is also good for the person who is expressing gratitude in their own personal growth. And I know, in the beginning of our show today, we spoke about how, Mathanmi himself was impacted with how we grew up. And we all do that. We all carry that. We have a lot of anger in ourselves. We have a lot of pain. We have a lot of things which we carry, which other people may not understand. Um, and to come out of that, right? And also, you mentioned about um, existing versus living, right? We want to live, we don't want to just exist, right? So, to be in that space, gratitude plays a very important role, which in our society, in our community, we don't see much. And I really want everybody to um, spread the word of love and gratitude so that our society will be elevated. So that was the intent on how we started this project. And I want to invite you to identify somebody in your personal space and also at the level of Manipur and share your gratitude in this segment.
Uh, I think sharing gratitude is when the first conversion started for this show about gratitude. I have been thinking actually that who should I give gratitude to? And the list has just been going on and on and on. And then I was like, can there be someone who can just who I can just name or something? Right? But I think I will be very honest also that I have so many people who I have to be grateful today, right? And to be where I am right now, because without that, starting from my grandma to my father and to my mother again, my mother playing that part. I didn't tell you this, but we are four boys, right? My family also, and I'm the youngest, and we are only boys. So I can imagine the level of the thing, how she must have raised us up, right? And then us turning out very decent now. So I think without her, it wouldn't have been possible because my father was most of the time not at home. So from my grandma to my father to my uh, mother to my siblings, I think every one of them has been there for me day in day out, and this has allowed me where I am in every decision that I take. Also, right, and then coming back again to the professional spaces also. Again, this also I don't have just someone, right? But today, uh, this is I want to be. I am very grateful to each and everyone who has played a huge role in my life, who has helped me in every decision, and who has helped me in every stages of my life. And, but today, I just wanted to be. I want to be grateful to someone who I have met very recently. I think it was last year. Right? So he runs an organization called CCI in Surachandpur. Right? His name is Paujagin. And that was by chance I went to Churachandpur just because TFIX had again came to Manipur to search for entrepreneurs, right? And then he was working with children with special needs, right? And this is one area which I have never been comfortable with, right? Because I was not exposed to it, and then I was uh, I was never in a space where I have had the interaction or engagement, right? And that day I went to Churachandpur, and he runs a beautiful center. Uh, he named it after his son, right? So they have this, it's an organization called CCI, and his name is Paul Jagan, and then they have this special needs school that is going on. So when I went there, the whole idea of education, right? The whole idea of inclusion, what how I am looking at inclusive TS, right? Not just about diversity of us people, but how much are we inclusive about the people around us, right? And just recognizing that, right? Because many a times I was not recognizing that, right? But just recognizing that, and acknowledging that
Right.
there needs to be a space for inclusion. So after meeting him, I the lens and the perspective of how I look in a school, right? And then what I look in the place where I'm working, that changes very differently. And so I very grateful that I met him, and I am able to see the work that he's doing. It's such a big heart, right? So once again is one thing that I wanted to. I don't know whether he's watching or not. If he's not watching, I'm gonna make him so that he watch it. So uh, so he named it after his son, the place, the special needs school that is running there, right? So that is there. And then one thing which I've also realized, that allowed me to realize, was that till my master's, till my graduation, I was all this post-traumatic stress disorder, right?
Mm.
Only when I came to masters, I knew about post-traumatic stress
Right.
disorder, right? Because nobody around me had talked about it, discussed it, right? And then suddenly masters, I was in social work, and now I became aware things. People start talking. Then I realized that what I had, and I started being mindful, right?
Mm.
Only then after that I have started being very mindful, and then how I speak, what I speak, the choice of word that I speak, I think that has a lot impacted. So when I come back to the school after meeting Pauli, I'm looking at children again, like what must they be undergoing? So like
Mm.
just kids. So uh, this lens of this thing, the whole experience with special need, the students in the school, I think that brought me a different experience. So I am very grateful to him. So I want to give my gratitude to him also. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for sharing about your mother. I know you mentioned about your grandmother and your father, but thank you again for bringing back about your mother. And I love that you have a big list. The idea of us talking about this is not so much to um, it's to instill the idea of gratitude. So it doesn't mean that just because you mention about your mom and about Paujagin, it doesn't mean that you don't appreciate others. It just means that for the purpose of today's call and today's session, we are identifying them, but we as a human can continue the practice of gratitude, right? What if we have a practice of gratitude every day, right? And thank somebody. It would
Yeah.
definitely make their day, and it would also enrich us, right? And also in our society, when we talk about when I went to many school and I asked them like, who is your role model? I want them to know the names of people in Manipur, right? You know about people like in
Yes.
India, in the world, very easily it comes. But what about Manipur? Maybe they would know about some um, famous sports stars and things like that. But what about people like you or like Paujagan, whom I'm hearing first time, right? That's why it's very important for me, for everybody to nominate someone at the level of Manipur, because he is your inspiration. I want to speak to him, right? I want to know about his initiative. Like it's such, just hearing from you that he has built such a special place for special needs kids, right? So we want to talk about that. We want to talk about how each of us are handling the post-traumatic phase. You spoke about that. Yeah, we don't talk about it, but we have lots. We have children who have gone
Yes.
out, like, for protests, and who are like struggling because they got so scared of the sound of that um, mm, tear gas bomb, and all that chaotic scenario, or like in a combing operation, or like when you were caught by the police, how you were hangoi daw na jungo hai bagi, they maklak that can be bagi. Lot of things are there which we are not talking about,
Yes.
but that doesn't mean it's not there, right? So um, it's the start of the conversation. So thank you for your nomination. Thank you for sharing that words, because these are the words which is going to help us rise, right?
Yeah.
Using your word. We do have to recognize also, right? Like who is doing what, because every effort is important for our society. And I think we have come a long way, and I'm so happy now, at least to see that when I grew up, like you said, there used to be a lot of curfew, there used to be a lot of burn, there was no electricity, and we see progress, but we can still do more. So thank you. So with that, we are getting
Thank
to
you,
the
Kate.
of our session. I am going to quickly share some of the comments from our listeners. Thank you to our listener. Um, you know, if our story, if our conversation has touched something in your heart, share it, because we need to share our stories. And that's how we are going to rise together, rise above the conflict, and start living, not just existing. All right, so we have Maibam Vaneshwari saying Kunjari, Loitong Bam Ipungo Macha, watching from Sagar Road, Imphal. Moirangthem Nagendra, may God bless, watching from RIMS, Imphal. Kaisam Pradeep Kumar, great to watch. And Loitong Bam Ibungo Macha continues and says thanks to Mathanmi Hungyo for sharing the experience that you earn. Right? See how like we have to continue sharing what we are doing. And you have been doing this from 2017, right? Um,
Yeah.
and I am very sure many of you who are watching are just coming to know about it today. And if you are coming to know about it today, the more we have to share it, right, in our social media. Jaguar, watching from Delhi. Keep it up, brother. Okay, so let's see. Vincent Pao is saying interesting. Kikim Kong Sai is saying watching from Dulalan. Jeep Mang Mangangcha says Matami, you
Thank you,
are
Jim.
really inspiring, extraordinary amidst the ordinaries. That's so cool. Maibam Baneshwari Devi asks, how did you start thinking about social work? I know you have covered it, but do you want to add a little bit?
Yeah, I can add that. Yeah. So, like I said, I was not preparing for a social worker course. Actually, my
Right.
cousin sister had applied for Delhi School of Social Work, and I thought that I'll also just apply. Right, so it was not in my mind, and I didn't know what the course was, what it was offering. Right, and then I had applied for two courses in Delhi University for my master's. One was for LLB, and then one was for social work. And then for the LLB, because of the interview, I couldn't go. And then social work, I could have gone. So I thought that I had paid for two of these entrance exams. So I was like, for social work, let me just go and write. I don't want to waste my money. Let me just get my word of money. So I had come back from trekking. Church, we had a camp, so we had gone for trekking to Uttarakhand and came back. And next day I was so tired, but let me not waste my money. I'll just go and write the exam. So I went and wrote for uh, 1.5 hour. It was 3 hours of exam, and then after that, I got a call that I was selected. So after that, that's how the whole process of social work started. And I think that morning when I could have slept, I had woken up and gone. So sometimes when there's a gut feeling that you should do to make the money worth it, I think we should go for it.
Yeah, like listening to your intuition, and sometimes you don't know, but you feel like, so do it, right?
Yeah,
Awesome. Um, Katarina Twin says, congrats.
yeah. She's also a social work student. She's from Zimbabwe. Yeah.
Oh,
So keep,
wow. So lovely to have you here. Uh, and Kang Shang says, thank you, Mathanmi Hungyo. He has done so much for our area in such a short time. Wishing you and your team all the very best on all your future endeavor. That's awesome.
yeah.
All right, and we have a lot of thumbs up and Kurumjari sign from our listeners. That is awesome. So tell me one thing. What do you say in your language dialect? Thagachari. How do you say thank you?
Ning Sinaire.
Ningsing naire.
Ning Sinaire.
Ningsina haire. That's so cool. All right. See, like, how we have shared, even though both of us are from Manipur, we
Yeah.
have different dialect, and that's what makes it beautiful. And I want to tell you personally, Mathanmi, that I'm so happy that you have come from your community, because when I started finding the voices, and even now, I have featured a lot of people from Manipur, from the Meitei community, which is where I belong. But I really want to be inclusive, and I want to expand to all our diverse community, and from every nook and corner of Manipur, as well as people who are somehow connected to Manipur, right? So I am so happy that you are a part of us, and through you, I hope to expand to other communities. Like today, you nominated um, Panjagin from Churachandpur.
Yeah. Paujagin.
Paujaging, sorry,
Yeah.
Paujaging from Churachandpur. And so that is an expansion, right? We want to hear about him, and that's how we'll all come to know about each other's work and community, bring our community closer. So special thanks to you for being in our show.
Yeah. Just before we close, I just wanted to say that, Jay, thank you so much for this opportunity. Uh, I think many a times it becomes, I think it's a very lonely journey that entrepreneurs have also. Right? We have many people around us, but sometimes for us for someone to listen to our work as well as share our work, it becomes a huge important thing for us, right? And then there are so many entrepreneurs who are working, and then which if the stories are shared, or if there's a conversion about the stories, we feel joy about it, right? So this opportunity, I think it's so important, and then continue doing whatever you are doing, and I'm very grateful for this opportunity, and then hopefully we will meet soon
Yes,
and
definitely. I
talk
would
more
love
about it.
to meet all the children, and it's been my absolute joy to, even though I'm far away from Manipur, when I meet young people, adult, and speak about how we can break the barriers what we create and limit ourselves, right, and just rise above and be explore all these different opportunities we have. So what you're doing, like you said, sometimes the journey could be lonely, but know that you are touching life, you are changing. Whatever you're doing will have an impact to each and every student you have met, because knowing our background, you know how important it is, like for a family, when the children get
Yeah,
educated and then they grow, they become financially independent, that is going to turn around that family, right? So we all know how important it is, your work. So thank you so much. And I want to end the show with the last comment we have from Sumichon Basum. I really appreciate for the good work done for students of remote Kamjong District, and continue to keep it your work in future also.
Thank you.
With that, we'll end today's show. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Tune back in next Sunday with yet another episode of People of Manipur. Let's learn. Let's focus on good initiative, and let's pour in our support, right? And I'm hoping that our episode has inspired somebody to think about teaching, right? Like think about how you can give it back to the society, and also like think about not only the teaching. Imagine such a wonderful, lovely place. I would like, if I have the time, like at some point in my life, I would love to come and stay there. I have never got the opportunity to stay freely, like in Manipur, because when I grew up, everybody's like, "Mapan thokano, adu bom tawuni, adu tawuni." So I never really got to see Manipur, and it's in my heart to go and explore different places. So it's an opportunity not only to teach children, but also to explore a beautiful place, and also like think about volunteering. So thank you so much, Mathanmi, and we hope to collaborate and work together in future. Thank you.
Thank you.